All right, we talked about the situation now that Ron DeSantis finds himself in. Of course, he was the guy everyone was paying attention to when he entered this race, had certainly the background and the gravitas to make a threat of himself to Donald Trump. That doesn't appear to be happening. And then lo and behold today, an editorial in the Wall Street Journal that says, Ron, it's time to put out the lights, saying that Mr. DeSantis faces no clear path to the nomination. He's well behind Ms. Haley in New Hampshire and South Carolina. If he believes, as he says, that Mr. Trump can't win in November, the editorial goes on to say he should leave the race and give Ms. Haley a chance to take on Mr. Trump one-on-one. To Hal Lambert, the early DeSantis supporter and donor, what he makes of that. Hal.
Well, Neil, it's good to be here. I'm still in Iowa. I was here last night. Actually went over and spoke on behalf of DeSantis at one of the caucus precincts, as did hundreds of other volunteers. It's an interesting process, but I'll just say this. Look, we outperformed last night, and Nikki Haley was saying there's only 2 tickets punched out of Iowa, and she came in third. The polls were all projecting that we would come in third at the end.
How do you figure you outperformed? I mean, you spent a lot of money, not you specifically, Hal, in 99 counties and didn't win one of them.
Well, but we picked up 9 delegates. There's 40 delegates here. We picked up 9 of them. Donald Trump picked up 20. So, you know, that's how you calculate a win or at least a second place is we got 9. So we were second.
And Nikki Haley got 8. I mean, we're talking at the margin.
That's correct. Well, but also DeSantis had $50 million of negative attack ads spent against him. And the way I say outperform is he was projected to come in third in all the polling at the end. So that's what I mean by outperform. He came in second and picked up more delegates. And now he's off to focus on South Carolina. And I would add this, too, Neil. There were a lot of Democrats voting last night for Nikki Haley. That you could come in and switch your vote. We're going to see what the numbers are at the end. We don't have them yet. That was switched on day of caucus. Took about 30 seconds. I'd guess about half her turnout was Democrats. Same thing's happening in New Hampshire. Democrats are voting in that primary up there. We're going to get to a state in South Carolina where you're not going to have Democrats voting in a Republican primary. And I think our voters deserve a choice. I agree with the Wall Street Journal. I think they deserve a choice between Donald Trump and one other candidate. That other candidate is clearly Ron DeSantis. It's not Nikki Haley.
Well, you know, it sounds like, and I've read the travel schedule for Governor DeSantis, and he's going to focus on South Carolina. I get that. But the fact that you said again that a lot of Democrats are going to vote in New Hampshire, that he's given up. And you've given up on New Hampshire.
Oh, absolutely not. No, he's going to be going back and forth between New Hampshire and South Carolina continuously over the next 8 days.
South Carolina in that prior answer. That's why I'm wondering what you think.
Well, mainly because it's not going to be a primary where you're going to have outside, Democrats helping decide our candidate. I really think our party deserves to have candidates decided by our party and not the other party. And so
you'll have core
that's the reason I said that.
In that part. You're quite right there, Hal, that they're more representative of the overall Republican Party. But they're in love with Donald Trump. That part of the party is overwhelmingly fond of him. So he goes from buzzsaw to chainsaw, right?
Well, not about that. We'll see. I mean, look, I think our party deserves to have a choice and not have it a coronation. And Donald Trump barely got over 50% last night, meaning almost 50% of the caucus goers wanted someone else. He's going to probably get less than 50% in New Hampshire or right around there. Again,
I mean, you
half
say he
the voters are
barely
not
got
going to
over
want him.
50%. I agree with you. It's still early. But, that's not too shabby. No one has won a caucus by this gap and this amount ever in history.
Well, we've never had an incumbent president running in a challenge there either, so I think that's a big factor. I mean, Neil, if Ronald Reagan could come back tomorrow and run in Iowa, do you think he'd only get 50% of the vote in a primary? I don't think so. I think he'd get well over that. Joe Biden, if he were to run, I think he'd get well over 50% in an Iowa caucus. So, he's polling much better in his party than Trump is. And as I think the enthusiasm gap, I heard someone talking about enthusiasm. Look, the turnout was pretty low in Iowa last night, 110,000 voters. They were talking north of 200,000 at one point.
Yeah, no, it was
and so I don't see that enthusiasm.
Okay. All right. Well, you argue your case very well. Hal, always good seeing you. Hal Lambert, still backing Ron DeSantis, still a major donor in that regard.